Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from Not the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got an incredibly powerful commander for you, built in a very interesting way, and yeah, it's Omega level. This is the kind of deck where you're like, oh, okay, that's, oh no, oh gosh, oh, it's turn 4, what is happening? Yeah, we're not talking about infinite combos here, but we are talking about some Simic shenanigans. Let's jump into it. So the commander for this deck is, of course, Vannifar Evolved Enigma. This one is, well, $11. We'll talk about the budget here in a bit. That makes up a good chunk of it, but still a very budget-friendly deck. Let's get in the commander first. A 3/4 Elf Ooze Wizard that costs 4 mana in Simic. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, choose 1. Cloak a card from your hand, so again, put it face down as a 2/2 that has Ward 2. And also, your other option is put a counter on each colorless creature you control. Now, that second part is, well, nice, but not going to say useless, but we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be building around that first part, cloaking cards out of our hand. And of course, we're going to pay to flip them over. No, we're not. We are not going to do that. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be blinking those cards, so we essentially get them back into play for free. Well, with the blink effect, you know, that costs like, you know, probably 1 or 2 mana essentially, and be able to do that and get it right back and say, you know what? Oh, I just cheated on this cost. That cost 10 mana essentially. So yes, we've got plenty of exciting things to cheat into play, some massive things to cheat into play. And again, turn potential like 4 massive things out there. Your opponents aren't going to know what hit them. Absolutely love this kind of a commander. We can do some really weird off-the-wall things. And again, a Simic commander that does not act like a Simic commander. This is not, hey, ramp, hey, card draw. No, this is like, hey, cheat out things as little tiny 2/2s and then flip them over and say, just kidding, this thing was massive. Moving on, let's talk about the price real quick. $29.35. Again, the commander itself, if you already have that, makes up $11.35 of that budget. The rest of the deck is incredibly budget friendly. Again, every single card in it is 50 cents or less. Yeah, even on a budget this low, you can build something incredibly impactful. Keep in mind that does not include the cost of shipping or the cost of basic lands, which you might already have. Regardless, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now with all that said, let's jump into the tactics to see how this deck works. So let's start things off with tactic number 1, don't blink. Again, we're going to be taking some massive cards in our hand. We're going to be cheating them into play with our commander as tiny little 2/2s, and then we're going to flip them over. So we're going to do that with something like Nephalia Smuggler. Pay 3 and a blue, tap, blink another creature you control. So again, exile it, comes back into play, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, that's huge. Again, a repeatable blink effect like this is massive. Moving on, Voyager Staff, pay 2 to sacrifice this one to blink as well. Comes back at the end step, so we can also void board wipes with this too. And with these blink effects, keep in mind, having these can make it really, really hard to actually deal with our commander for our opponents, and we've got other ways to protect it too. Next up, Plantar Incision. Blink an artifact or creature. Say creature comes back and play the counter on it. Good for that. Again, the important thing here is just blink for 2 mana. Speaking of which, Siren's Ruse. Blink a creature, essentially. If it's a pirate, we draw a card. It's not going to be a pirate. It's going to be a little 2/2 with Ward 2, so don't worry about that. Moving on to Fairy's Time Twist. Exile any permanent we control. Blink it again. Comes back with, you know, a counter on if it's a creature. Again, what we care about, again, is 2 mana blink. The more and more of these effects we have, the better. Moving on, Blur. 3 mana, blink, and then draw a card as well. So this replaces itself. Displace can let us blink 2 creatures, which is massive again. We cheat out 2 of those creatures. No, 1 this turn, 1 next turn, and just for 3 mana, we're like, oh, by the way, they're not these tiny little 2/2s. They're these massive things coming into play. Moving on. Ghostly Flicker, even better, gives us more options. Blink 2 target artifacts, creatures, or lands. So again, even if you only have 1 creature in play to blink, just blink one of your lands. Get it back into play untapped. Then there's Golden Argosy. Oh my goodness, blink everything. Everyone on the ship, we're going this way. Crew 1, yeah, you can overcrew this, and of course you will do that with your creatures. A 3/6, whenever it attacks, exile each creature that crew this turn, return the battlefield, tap those control to begin next end step. If you can keep this in play, if you can keep this alive, that is huge, as again, just a massive blink effect whenever you need it for your team. Then there's Identity Thief. Whenever it attacks, you can exile another target non-token creature. Again, these are non-tokens. They are still just, face down 2/2s. They are not tokens. If you do comes a copy of that creature from turn, cool, but also then it comes back at the end step. So again, we get to flip that card over. Illusion Stratagem, basically a displace. We also get to draw a card as well. So again, blinking 2 creatures can be huge. Melindor, Swift Saver, is a 3/3 flying bird soldier. Whenever it deals combat to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own, then return to the battlefield under your control. Again, we are going to be able to get this through on opponents most of the time, at least one of our opponents, just with that combat damage trigger that can be massive, being like, oh, okay, cool, now I flip that over, and you're all in trouble. Void Walk, another repeatable one as well. Blink a creature, turn it back to the owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It also has Cypher, so again, if we put this on an evasive creature or one that can get through, again, we're going to have massive creatures quite quickly. And if they can get through, lovely. Put this on there and start blinking other creatures. Finally, a big, weird blink effect that, be careful when you're using this, but it can also just be very beneficial in multiple ways. Day of the Dragons, 7 mana enchantment, enters the battlefield, exile all creatures you control, then put that many 5/5 red dragon creature tokens of flying on the battlefield. When it leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all dragons you control, then return the exile cards to the battlefield under your control. Basically, hey, get this in play. Again, if you've got a lot of little 2/2s, all of a sudden, they're gone. Now they're 5/5 flying dragons. You can even win the game with that as your play. You don't even have to have your cards flipped. That being said, yeah, there's going to be some opportunities for you to be like, okay, I'm actually going to get rid of my own Day of the Dragons, and all of a sudden, everything else comes back. And again, it comes back on the front side. So instead of being tiny little 2/2s or 5/5 dragons, they are, well, monstrous things. But now let's go on to tactic number 2, Let's Face It, because we want to get even more face-down cards into play. First up, Adric, Mathematical Genius, pay 2 and a blue tap. Copy target activated triggered ability you control, 2 targets for the copy. We can pay 1 a blue and sacrifice this to counter target activated triggered ability if we need to. But again, being able to copy our commander's trigger can be absolutely massive. Being like, okay, I'm cheating in this card and also this card. Speed things up and get really ahead of your opponents. Speaking of speeding things up, Scroll of Fate in a very similar way. Cloak is basically Manifest, but with Ward 2. Tap, manifest a card from your hand. So basically, again, hey, an additional way to get some creature or something into play, cheated face down, so that we can blink it later. And keep in mind with this one, it's not just like on combat during our turn. We can just do this right before our turn so our opponents might not see anything coming. But now let's go on to tactic number 3, Value Town, because yeah, there's plenty of value to be had. First up, Trail of Mystery. Whenever a face-down creature enters the battlefield under your control, search your life for a basic land, put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. Whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, it's a creature +2/+2 until end of turn. The important part is that first part. The amount of lands we can get out of this is huge. Again, every single time we cheat something into play with our commander, cool. Go get a basic land. We are not going to be missing any land drops with this in play. Of course, manifesting helps as well. Next up, Diluvian Primordial. ETB for each opponent. We can cast 1 instant source from their graveyard for free. Basically, hey, ETB, cast 3 things. That is fantastic, again, especially again when we have blink spells that can help us out. If our opponents have blink spells, even better. Thank you so much. Or clone spells to help us too as well with that. Regardless, being able to take advantage of this ETB, being able to flip it and get so much value from it, we love that. Speaking of which, Hornet Queen, another great ETB. Enters battlefield, create 4 1/1 green flying, insect creature tokens, death touch, and flying. Yeah, being able to have them all in play, they are great blockers, also great attackers. Good luck opponents dealing with that, especially again when we have ETBs that we can abuse with this. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Next up, Swarm Intelligence. Oh my goodness, we can really take advantage of our blink spells with something like this in play. Again, cheat it into play as a 2/2. Oh no, and blink it, just blink it. Put it on the backside, and all of a sudden, we've got, hey, every single one of our instant sorceries that we cast get doubled up. That means that our blink effects are doubled up. We can speed things up even quicker. Speaking of which, Wizard Spellbook, we can actually recast spells as well with this. Tap, exile target instant source card from a graveyard, roll a d20, activate a sorcery. 1 through 9 is copy the card, cast the copy. Or 10 through 19, cast that copy, but just pay 1 instead of paying its cost. Again, we can utilize our own, we can use our opponents, whatever we need. Finally, 20, utilize everything. Copy each card, exile with it, cast any other copies without paying their mana cost. Yeah, that is a lovely to hit when you do. Speaking of free value, though, Wondrous Crucible. Permanents you control have Ward 2. That's already great being able to protect our things. Again, our tiny little 2/2s that already have Ward 2 basically have 2 instances of that. Kind of like a Ward 4, but not. Anyways, at the beginning of your end step, mill 2 cards and exile a non-land card at random from your graveyard. Copy it, cast copy without paying its mana cost. Again, extra free value, especially with some of the massive things that we have. What's not to love about that? Enray's Forerunners, a great finisher for us. A 7/7 Vigilant Trample Haste. enters the battlefield. Other creatures we control get +2/+2, gain vigilance, trample time of turn. A great way to pump our team. And again, with blink effects, we can get this even more than once. Same worm convergence. Creatures up flying can't attack your planeswalkers you control. Begin your end step. Make a 5/5 worm. Again, getting this out early can be massive for us, not just to protect us, but to get that army started. And again, yeah, there's very easy possibilities to actually have this happen on, turn 4? Essentially, like ramp turn 2, get commander out turn 3, turn 4, get this out, blink it, all of a sudden, start making 5/5s again, and again. Speaking of making creatures, though, Verdant Force, 7/7. Beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. That's every single upkeep, not just around. So with one trip around the table, you're making 4 tokens. You can make an army in absolutely no time. And of course, like I've already mentioned, we've got ways to pump that army. Next up, Phyrexian Triniform, an army on a single creature, a 9/9. When it dies, you make 3 3/3s. Can also encore it back out of your graveyard for 12. And of course, when those die, you're making 9 of them. And then, yeah, just have fun taking out your opponents. Now, we've already talked about a lot of value to be had, but of course, we need to dig down to get even more value and get things back. Let's move on to tag number 4, dig down. Wildest Dreams, XX in a green. Bring X cards back from your graveyard to your hand. Exile it. Yeah, we've got plenty of ways to make a lot of mana. Get that mana into this and get a lot of those cards back, including, well, blink spells or just massive things we want to cheat back into play. Regrowth, a very simple way to do that for just a single card for 2 mana. Then we've got Season of a Growth. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield to control scry 1, it's going to be happening a lot, so some nice card selection for us there, but card advantage as well, because whenever we cast a spell that targets a creature we control, we draw a card, and of course those blink cards, yeah, it's going to be helping us a lot. We can also blink a Fierce Empath, because hey, a great ETB, a 1/1 ETB, search life for a creature card with a converted mana cost 6 or greater, reveal it, put your hand, then shuffle. An amazing tutor essentially on that ETB. Hey, go get whatever threat you want, whatever card you want of those giant creatures you have. Go get that one and have fun. Then we've got Timeless Witness. Bring any card back from your graveyard to your hand. You can also eternalize it to get that effect again. Prime Speaker Zagana. Yes. A 1/1 ETB with X counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. Basically, this is going to be our biggest threat, because our other threats, this says, hey, you're the biggest. Cool. Now I am. Also, enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to its power. A massive repeatable draw effect for this deck. Let's not think about that again. All the blink effects that we have. Inspired Sphinx, speaking of which, enter the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents you have. Typically, that's going to be 3, right? We can also make Thopters if we really want to, something like this too. Lord of Change, no question on this one. Enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Keep in mind, this also has Ward 3 and Flying, so this can be a good threat in and of itself. Sandstone Oracle is also a variable amount of card draw. Enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If they've got more cards in hand than us, draw cards equal to the difference. So, oh man, you've got that, no maximum hand size over there. I'm really jealous. I'll draw 15 cards, sure, why not? Scholar of the Ages, enters the battlefield, return to 2 target instant or source cards from your graveyard to your hand. This is not, I'm not really like infinite, there's not like an actual combo with like untapping things, but you can just keep getting back blink spells that can blink this and something else, and just keep doing that again, and again, to ensure that you have those blink spells when you need them to flip over those creatures. Sphinx Athune, ETB, basically fact or fiction. So yeah, a lot of value to be had out of something like this. Deshauna, Voice of Thunder, again, speaking of value, power, toughness, each equal number of cards in your hand, which can be massive. You don't have maximum hand size, which again, we've talked about cards that can draw us in a lot of cards. On top of that, ETB, draw a card for each creature you control. Yeah, we can flood the board in no time with a deck like this. Tree Shaker Chimera, an 8/5. All creatures able to block it do so. So this can be a finisher for us, being like, okay, I swing at you with my full army. All your creatures have to block this one. My other ones get through at you. And of course, when this dies, we draw 3 cards. So again, it replaces itself with a lot of value. Wind Reader Speaks, speaking of value, my goodness, a 3/7 flyer. Whenever a creature with flying attacks, you may draw a card. Notice it doesn't say whenever a creature you control with flying attacks. No. Anyone's flyers, which of course we have quite a bit, whenever they attack, we are drawing cards. Moving on to tactic number 5, break stuff. Yeah, we've already talked about some ways to throw some wrenches into our opponent's plans, including just getting some massive things out incredibly early, but hey, let's just mess with them a bit more with Brutalizer Exarch. Enters the battlefield, choose 1. Well, we can search a life for a creature card, put on top of our library. That's, not technically messing with our opponents, but the other part of this is put target non-creature permanent on the bottom of its owner's library. So there you go, a way to say, yeah, you know what, you don't need that anymore. Yeah, you know what, for the rest of the game, probably you're never going to see that again. Also, I can blink this to get that effect. Bane of Balaged attacks defending player, exiles 2 permanents they control. that is deadly, especially again if unfortunately for our opponents this could happen pretty early in the game. They're gonna be in big trouble. Next up, Scourge of Fleets, yet another great ETB to use and abuse. Enters the battlefield, return each creature opponents control toughness X or less to its owner's hand, or X the number of islands you control. At a certain point, once we ramp properly, that can be basically all their creatures again, and again, thanks to those blinks. Then there's Thorn Mammoth. Whenever it or other creature is battlefield under control, Thorn Mammoth fights up to one target creature you don't control. Again, it's a decision for us, but typically it's like, oh yeah, you've got a creature that's, like a 5/5 or less. Let's take that out. Why not? Terastodon, a 9/9 ETB, destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanent. For each permanent input engraved this way, they get a 3/3 elephant. We'll make that trade any day of the week. Sure, take some elephants. I'm destroying 3 of your best things. And by the way, again, it's on a 9/9 body that, again, we can blink to get that effect again, and again. Ulamog's Crusher, an 8/8 with Annihilator too. Oh no, it has to attack each combat of Fable. It's not my fault I'm attacking you and forcing you to sacrifice 2 things, while also smacking you with an 8/8. No, it has to attack. That's not my fault. Woodfall Primus, a 6/6 with Trample, enters the battlefield, destroy non-creature permanent. We also persist with this so it comes back when it gets taken care of, which is great for us because, hey, let's deal 2 things instead of just 1. Artisan of Kozilek, speaking of dealing 2 things, a 10/9. If we do cast it, again, keep in mind, not just on ETB, you do have to cast it. We return target creature card from your grave to the battlefield, so it's a great reanimation effect for us. Annihilator 2. So again, cheating to play is great, or just casting this is great as well. Moving on, let's move on to attack number 6. Stick around. Again, I've already talked about how our blink effects can be great at protecting some of our key permanents, including our commander, but also how about Soul of New Phyrexia, a great threat for us, a 6/6 Trampler that has pay 5, permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn, so make our things even harder to deal with, and even if this is in our graveyard, hey, pay 5, exile this, and do the exact same thing. Dawnglade Region, a great one as well, an 8/8 Elk for 7 mana, so already a big threat for us, but hey, when it enters the battlefield, we're the Monarch, we are the King. And by the way, if we're the Monarch, our permanents have Hexproof, so what's better than Ward 2? Well, Hexproof. All of our things have Hexproof, and again, with the massive threats that we have, we can easily steal the Monarch back from our opponents, and also, it's going to be hard for them to actually get it from us too. But now let's move on to tactic number 7, speed it up, because yeah, we need a ramp to make all these lovely things happen. Wayfarer's Bauble, of course, pay 2 tap sacrifice, go get a base land, in a play tapped. Then we've got Rampant Growth, basically the OG of ramp, right? 2 mana, go get a base, gonna play tapped. Edge of Autumn does the exact same thing as long as we've got 4 or fewer lands. So early on, it's great. Later in the game, great as well. We can cycle it away by sacrificing a land. Fertile Ground, attached to one of our lands. That land's going to tap for 2 instead of 1 and 1 mana of any color. Cultivate, go get 2 basics. 1 goes into play tapped. 1 goes into our hand to set ourselves up for a land drop. Farhaven Elf, a great ETB for us. ETB, get that basic land into play tapped. Grow from the Ashes. If we kick it, we get 2 basics into play untapped. If not, we only get 1, which is still great. Harrow, speaking of 2 basics, sacrifice 1 land, go get 2 into play untapped at instant speed. Roiling Growth, the exact same thing, except those lands do come into play tapped, so we can't utilize them right away. Unlike Search for Tomorrow, turn 1, fantastic place to spend 2 for a single green mana, basic land into play untapped. Sprinkling Druid, sacrifice 1, 2 into play tap. Basically, Roiling Growth on an ETB. Again, another ETB we can use and abuse. Then we've got Migration Path, basically Exposed Vegetation, but better. 2 basics into play tap, or cycle it away for 2 mana if we don't need that. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are on this deck. What are your thoughts on Vannifar Evolved Enigma? How would you build around this commander? What do you think about my build? And if you are interested in that build, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.